to the Southeast Local Enterprise Partnership Annual General Meeting 2021-2022. I'm Christian Brodie, Chair of the Southeast LEP, and thank you to all of you for being in attendance, and we're looking forward to a good session. This meeting is a webinar, so only panelists and those due to speak can be seen or heard. The meeting is being recorded, and it is an open and public meeting. The video will be available on the Selep website after the event. Anyone with questions throughout the session can submit them in the Q&A section, and we will do our best to answer them. If we're unable, then we will provide an answer following the meeting. This meeting is an opportunity to bring all the Southeast LEP Limited members, our partners and businesses together, to consider the performance of the partnership over the year and to consider some of the important issues at hand as we look to the future. As we reflect on the year 2021-22, it was a time of recovery, and the economy performed better than some expected for the Southeast LEP Limited as an organization. But we have had to deal with a volatile context to our work, and despite the changing economic conditions, the fundamentals still apply. We still need to support our businesses and ensure good quality advice and guidance around development and planning in a collaborative way. And we need to ensure that we have the skills to support future industry. We've heard some great discussions and content in our annual conference earlier today, looking at the changing role for the Southeast economy, how our economy is evolving in this more digital and flexible world of work, and what this means for employers as well. Undoubtedly, the impact of energy costs, inflation, access to supply and skills represent some of the biggest challenges we face as a region, and indeed as a country and the world more generally. But with this change comes great opportunity. We've heard about planned major projects and our natural position as a gateway to the UK, which means our ports, future free ports and airports continue to influence our local and national recovery. We have a responsibility to support our business and public sector leaders to invest in our local areas and ensure we can rebuild in a more sustainable and conscious way by leveraging the unique partnership that we as a LEP have built over the years, fostering a culture of collaboration. As this will be my final year as Selep Chair, I would like to reflect on the difference we have made to the Southeast economy through our work at the LEP. It has been the privilege of my career to be the chair of the Southeast LEP for 7 years. We have seen much change during this time. There have been 4 prime ministers and various paradigm shifts around the local growth agenda. Changing trading conditions with the UK, departing the EU, the considerable socio-economic pressures of a global pandemic, and now rising costs and energy crises challenging our economy. With the support of a dedicated board and senior leadership team, we've always been an agile organization that has evolved to meet these significant challenges. There have been many examples where the Southeast LEP and our partners has made a huge local impact, whether that's in skills, infrastructure, town centre regeneration, business support, driving through our strategic economic and recovery plans, and our many engagements with local partners, MPs and other stakeholders. A highlight has been our fantastic annual conferences on key issues, including productivity, diversity and clean growth. We have also played a vital role in supporting our community with these issues and in championing the voice of business. The time has now come for a new business leader to come forward to take on the role of Southeast LEP Chair. We will shortly begin the recruitment process for my successor. We have agreed the process for seeking a new chair with our board. This is an independent and open and transparent process. We have a role profile and specification and have appointed a selection panel. Applications will be opening in the coming weeks, and a new chair and deputy chair will be in position from February 2023. Anyone interested should speak to Adam Bryan in the first instance. I look forward to working with my successor over the coming months to ensure a smooth and orderly transition. It has been a real honor to serve the Southeast LEP, and I'd like to thank our board, sub-boards, and executive team for their tremendous work. We have achieved a lot and seen significant success by working together. The Selep annual report has now been published. You should have received a link to the report, which is on our website. This has been shared in the Q&A section for anyone who hasn't received it. The annual report covers our activities in 2021-22, some of which we will cover off in more detail here. The report also includes financial information for last year. The report provides some good examples of the work we have completed. And to build on this, I will now hand over to Adam Brown, Selep Chief Executive, who will take us through a presentation of Selep achievements and some highlights from the past year. Adam, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris, and welcome everybody. Good morning again, and thank you for joining. I think to kick off what I'm going to say in a bit more detail than I was able to cover at the conference, I think I get to run a poll. So Amy or Zoe, I think now's the time. So the question for the poll is, so what do you think will have the biggest impact on business survival in the next year? First option, government policy, then local action, individual action, or international collaboration. Just give you a few seconds to respond to that one. I think that's pretty resounding as responses go.
Can I just say mine says that host and panelists cannot vote?
I think I might be right, Councillor Wagland. If you wanted to offer an opinion, then very pleased to hear it.
You know me well enough to know I've got an opinion, but I'll leave it for now.
But clearly, government policy is the element that people consider will have the biggest impact on business survival, and I think we will all continue to watch that with great interest. Obviously, from the perspective of local enterprise partnerships and all the partners that we work with in the public sector, you know, we expect to play some role in determining how things are delivered over the course of the coming few months. And obviously, you know, the direction of policy we watch with real interest and play a supporting role wherever we can. But that's a really interesting takeaway for me. So I've got a few sort of elements to take you through. So 5 key sort of themes really of what I'm going to say over the course of the next half an hour or so. I really don't want to, this obviously as usual, a fair bit to cover. I don't want to dwell on anything for too long because there's a lot to go through, but we've got questions at the end, obviously questions to pose to the board directors as well, which is one of my favorite elements of the AGM. So that'll be good towards the end for anything that's outstanding, anything in addition that people want to hear about. Clearly it would be wrong of me to not reflect a little bit on the position to start off with that we've been in as LEPs over the course of the last year, 18 months. I think we've risen to the challenge very strongly. We've continued to deliver diligently as a group of individuals in the team. Government obviously published the Levelling Up white paper at the beginning of the year, and it provided a framework for what's to come next, which is helpful. And I think it's really important that we work closely with partners on supporting that. But prior to that coming out, I think we had to reduce the team, which was a great shame, and reduce some of our activities accordingly. And those pressures obviously remain at the moment. But I think for those of us that are still here, you know, as I've reflected in previous meetings, you know, I'm really humbled to see the degree of work that that the team and our partners, and the degree to which we're supported by ECC and as the accountable body. It overall represents a huge effort, and really ensures that so much good stuff is delivered to support economic growth in our patch. And I'm really proud to do the job that I do in that respect. If I can move on to the first slide, please, Zoe or Amy. Don't know who's controlling them. So the economic recovery and renewal strategy is the strategy that has governed what we've done over the course of the last year or two. So published in March 21. It was really a response to the impact of COVID, and gave us an opportunity to sort of have a fresh look on how we categorized our work. Clearly, that the area around business resilience and growth is important, but for me, that's always it's got to be tangible. It's got to be meaningful. It's got to manifest in things that have a direct impact on businesses out there. So I remarked earlier on some of the things that we did through the COVID-19 funds. That's important. Obviously, delivery through the Growth Hub is important, but having a relevance and using every means that we have to support businesses directly is important there, in however we do it, through the sector groups as well. UK's Global Gateway, I think that whole piece around advocacy and communications and supporting our local partners to make the case for investment here will always be important. You know, the USP of this part of the country is always important to communicate. It is by and large unique to here, and we need to make sure that we don't lose out on attention and on investment, whether that's from the government or from business that wants to locate here. And I think some of those day-to-day conversations, bits of influence, sort of just general trust and things that we do to sort of help people and work with people, we don't often talk about, but they all form part of this this element of what the LEP should be here to do. And as I remarked a little bit in the conference before, you know, really doing what we can do to support local communities is important. Focusing on some of the challenges specific to our coastal areas has always been something that that we've tried to do as a LEP, and obviously with the changing organisational landscape as well, some of the work of groups like the Thames Estuary Strategic Group and others, you know, it's just important that we work closely with all partners to make sure that we continue to deliver meaningfully against these agendas and target any funding or opportunities we've got appropriately to support the right things. We can move on to the next slide, please. So the big element of delivery for us has always been the funding programs. So traditionally, when the LEP started, as everybody will know, the capital funding that we had at our disposal, the provenance of that was from DFT. So the focus was always predominantly on supporting infrastructure investment. But obviously, as time's moved on, we've been able to do other things. So we took, over the course of the financial year that I'm reflecting on, we took the opportunity to divert revenue funding that would otherwise have been available to me and the team to really undertake activities through the team. We diverted that towards what we called the COVID-19 recovery funds. That amounted to just shy of £4 million. As I said earlier, you know, divided between the business support fund and the skills recovery fund. We were able to work with some great partners across WSX, Visit Kent, and consortium partners there in that particular sector around business support and providing solutions around adapting with digital. The project around supporting the visitor economy had a real impact on the whole buy local agenda as well. And then on the other side of this particular slide, the Skills Recovery Fund and what we were able to do with 3 different organisations around COVID recovery and digital skills was something that I think we had the AGM last year and asked a question along the lines of, what's the most important thing that LEP's ever done? Is it £500 million worth of capital investment, or COVID-19 funds, or any of the sector-based work that we've done? And we had a resounding answer that said it was this. And it was a little surprise to me at the time, because ultimately these are the kind of things that have the most direct impact on business. And some of the case studies that we've seen, and the real impact of this has been really great to observe. And you know, any organisation that is tasked with fulfilling a role around economic development, economic growth, regeneration, whatever you want to call it at the time. It's really got to translate into something that means something to people and to businesses on the ground. And this is a really good example of us doing exactly that. And we're really proud of it. And given any opportunity to do any more of it, of course, we'd like to do exactly that. Next slide, please, guys. Another element of what we do in terms of connecting with business is obviously deliver the Growth Hub. And looking back to the last financial year, the Growth Hub was going great guns. As we know, following the federated model of the LEP, this is delivered in different ways. In fact, in terms of the Growth Hub, in 3 different ways: through Business East Sussex, through Business Essex Southend and Thurrock, and the Kent and Medway Growth Hub. So, as with everything else, we contract with the Upper Tier Authority, and then the service is then sort of further contracted and commissioned from there. The Growth Hub had a fantastic impact across 21-22. I don't think necessarily that the stats on this slide that I won't read out necessarily do it justice. I think some of the work that was undertaken to respond to COVID and to support businesses through a really difficult year was superb, and the additional investment that some of the Growth Hub activities was able to inspire, thinking about some of the support that was offered in Kent and Medway in particular, was really positive, had a great impact, talked to thousands upon thousands of businesses, and it's exactly this that should be a big feature of ongoing support for business, really, if it's to mean much moving forward. What we've seen this year since this has been a reduction in funding for Growth Hubs, and it's been difficult to maintain a similar level of service. In fact, the level of service has obviously had to reduce, but the quality hasn't. What's been delivered hasn't. The degree to which it's joined up has remained the same as well, and we continue to argue really strongly about the importance of business support, however it's delivered, and actually argue really strongly for the model in which it's delivered across our footprint as well. Having something that's bespoke to each of the areas has been really important. The different ways in which that's worked has been really interesting to see, and it's been really impactful. And for me, it's got to be, in whatever comes next in terms of responding to growth policy, actually, direct business support and offering that kind of service has got to be a feature. Next slide, please, guys. So looking at the capital programme specifically, as everybody knows, the LGF programme came to an end. We obviously have a few projects that have been granted extensions as we seek to get those completed. The overall quantum of LGF, just to reiterate, is about £580 million, and that's spread across 106 projects in the entirety of the LEP area. And I needn't rehearse all of them. Everybody sort of engaged, certainly in the board, and particularly the accountability board. We see that run through our conversations time and time again. The projects that have completed, the projects that are yet to complete, and what we're doing to make sure that we go through the right process in making sure that everything is properly delivered. All of that side of what we do is important. And what we've got on the slide here, a couple of really good examples of how our different strands of funding have been used. So USP College across South Essex and the Extend Digital Campus is a specific example from the local growth fund. And also I want to kind of looking at things from a smaller capital investment perspective. The Creative Hub on Fisher Street in Lewis is just a smaller example of where getting building fund has been put to good use to have an impact on a particular sector and supporting small businesses in that sector in an important location in the LEP. So it's been good to see how we've been able to respond to some of some of the challenges that we've had with getting towards the end of a capital program. Clearly, you know, some of the money has freed up from projects which, for different reasons, haven't been able to deliver. And as we're going through at the moment as well, you know, we've been able to work really closely within the assurance framework and closely with the accountable body to make sure that the board is put in a good position in terms of advice to reallocate funding to projects that can deliver and deliver to the original aims of the fund, and therefore I suppose in the end what we get is a more eclectic mix of projects, but I would say it's a mix that's all the stronger. And when you consider that GBF has probably ranged from a 12.9 million pound investment at North Kent College in the project which is going to be launched next week, to a 250,000 pounds creative hub in Lewis, you can see the spectrum of what we've been able to invest in is wide, and the impact is significant when aggregated across the area. Next slide, please, guys. So just looking at other things that we've been able to support. So the Growing Places Fund has also been able to support the Wine Innovation Centre at NIAB in East Malling, which, you know, is that viticulture and that particular sector is certainly a growing one across our patch, and that's absolutely recognised by that investment. And great to see the project completed as well. And the Sector Support Fund, which again has been something that we've been really pleased to be able to do, and, you know, for very obvious resourcing reasons, you know, it's not a fund that continues to operate, but while we had it there and while the money was available, it gave us an opportunity to really support our working groups with something again meaningful, you know, some funding to be able to make a real difference. And obviously what we were able to do with Catalyst for Culture is really help support theatres, provide live and online experiences for audiences in a way that hadn't necessarily been done before. And so, you know, the impact of that has been great, and it just adds to what's been a sort of a mix of investments that's grown and become more varied over time, and that's really been good to be responsible for. Next slide, please. So turning to the future focus, so some of the important elements of what we're doing now is really thinking about how we iterate our work, our strategic work, and our work with our working groups as well. So traditionally we've had conversations across different sectors and the different working groups that folks on the LEP board certainly will be familiar with, you know, ranging from a conversation with rural partners, conversations specific to our universities, on the Growth Hub, and all the other different elements that we support. As we move forward and we think again about the impact that we're able to have, we're developing a strategy network, which is really our attempt to, you know, join more dots together where we possibly can. So, you know, the network that we have, the ethos is that our network is your network, and it really is about sort of, you know, joining up in support of a kind of overall regional strategy for growth. And the important thing really, as I kind of hinted at when I spoke earlier on, is to make sure that when we sort of advise on a way forward, and when we kind of connect different parts of our network together, that it's underpinned by accurate data. You know, we know exactly what a challenge is in a particular location, and we're able to advocate for a particular opportunity, or you know, a particular way forward. So that the strategy network piece is moving forward now. Colleagues in the team are really working hard to move us into that new way of working, and I think it's should be really impactful in terms of making sure, in the most benevolent of possible ways, that the intelligence that we have and the networks that we have are just available genuinely to everybody that we work with, because we, in our view, it's that's the only way in which you can properly engender supporting the economy and getting towards growth again. There's some really excellent conversation earlier about the major projects group, which is a really important element of this, and talking to the likes of Martin and Matt, who were on the conversation earlier, has been really beneficial for them, but obviously really beneficial for us, because I think when it comes to really understanding the proper narrative, the proper position of the area when you're advocating for investment here or advocating for what partners are looking to do, you really need to understand what those real challenges are. And for me, that's something that I think we've got a really good handle on, and just bringing that meaningfully to all partners is something that we will absolutely continue to do. I think beyond this slide, it's really important to reflect on what's coming next. Where does all of this take us in the longer term? And I think it's probably, we would all kind of look at the white paper and the direction of travel with devolution and that very important agenda, and recognise that in all likelihood, the LEP won't be here beyond the next couple of years. But I think what's really important, therefore, is that the components of work that we've developed, the different elements that we have, absolutely inform whatever comes next, because there's always going to be something there to support economic growth, to support the agenda of helping businesses to become the best that they can become. And a conversation that the LEP board will have in a couple of weeks' time, and a conversation that I will absolutely would like to take to local partners over the course of the coming 6 months or so, is really to be clear on what those things are that constitute that expertise. What is it that the LEP's had that needs to feature in whatever form in what comes next? And that ranges from obviously the expertise that we've developed in individuals. That's for me, that's first and foremost, and that regional leadership piece and everything that we've done to connect those networks together, that's really important. Secondly, I would probably reflect on the knowledge that we have that's specific to sectors, and those relationships that are in place there. The data that underpins that. So we've done an awful lot over the last year or two to really strengthen our hand in terms of the data sets and of a local nature, of a kind of more regional nature that underpin what we do. A lot of that is available. All of what we've developed is available to all partners, but the understanding that, being able to interpret that and apply that is a skill that we have in the LEP that I think has got to feature in whatever comes next. And obviously, that some of the fundamental elements of what we've done, you would hope would be important to the institutions that appear post-devolution. So particularly around capital program management, everything that's been learned, the processes that we've had in place, the importance of almost the separation of the identifying priorities, the role of the strategic board versus the role that the accountability board has played for us, which has been about bringing the democratic legitimacy to that final decision when the business cases have been developed, when they've been independently appraised. It's really that kind of double lock has been important, and I think there were lessons learned from that, and processes in place that we have that absolutely should feature in whatever comes next in making a real go and of economic growth and investment. There are lots of other elements of what we do. I've already talked about the importance of business support and how that iterates and what we can bring in terms of the experience that we have there. And as you've already seen in elements of the conversation today, that network that we have around housing. So bringing the developers together with local authorities on a county basis, as it is at the moment, but also on a Selep basis and in the Selep Housing Development Group, is really quite, the soft power of that is really quite significant. And I think we're probably guilty of not always sort of shouting particularly loudly about the things that we do on a day-to-day basis that we think make a difference. I mentioned some of those things earlier on in the conference. That happens all the time, and it's always in the name of bettering our area, bringing people together in our area, trying to get as much interest, investment in our area as we possibly can, and ultimately supporting what local partners want to do for the betterment of their patches. Just probably the most important thing that I need to do as I get towards the end of what I'm saying is to thank a few people. And I know we hear this said from time to time, but you don't often hear it from me, so I should put that one right. The people I want to thank probably the most are Zoe, Helen R, Louise, Sharon, Helen D, Joe, Amy, Ellie, Viv, Alex, Richard, Howard and Brian, for all the work that you do to make everything tick along so well in the team. We're superbly assisted by colleagues in the accountable body, and Lorna there has been a real rock for us, and continues to be and will be as we chart what comes next as well. So thank you to everybody there. Probably most importantly though is for me to pass my thanks on to Sarah and to Chris. Both their terms are coming to an end as deputy chair and chair respectively. What Sarah's done to support the accountability board in particular has gone above and beyond the call of duty, you could say, and it's been fantastic to work with Sarah on that, and I hope we can continue to work with Sarah as well. So thank you to you, Sarah. But my special thanks today go to Chris for everything that you've done to support me over the last 7 years. So that most of the time I've been doing this job, in fact all of the time of course I've been doing this job, effectively you've been my boss. We've had a good relationship. It's been great over the years. We've had to take the LEP through some pretty difficult stuff, but some really good stuff as well. Obviously we've got different perspectives, coming from a different perspective on things, but I think we always tend to agree on the important stuff. And your leadership and your support of the team in particular has been really valuable to me, and it's made my job an awful lot more easy than it might otherwise be. Not that I'm saying it is easy, because it's really quite not, but it's been fantastic to work with you as a support there. So that is all from me for the moment. And thank you to the rest of the board. Thank you to everybody for joining today. So I'll hand back to you, Chris, and then we can go into questions for board directors, which I should sit back and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for your kind words, and I would like to reiterate again my thanks to the whole of the Secretariat for the work, the difficult and challenging work they've done in some very trying circumstances over the course, particularly over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. They've done a fantastic job, and to you, Adam, as well. You've been great support, and I know Sarah has chaired the accountability board with great professionalism, again through some difficult times. So Sarah, particular thanks to you. Thank you also, Adam, for taking us through those highlights. There's even more that has been achieved over the course of the last year, and this can be found in our annual report, which is now on the website. And thank you to all our partners for your support in delivering these achievements. I'm trying to see if there are any questions, but I'm actually quite relieved to see that I don't think there are any. Which is that right? If that's right, then I think what I will do is just thank you all for attending the event, and so just to point out that there will be a recording, as I said at the beginning of the session, and the annual conference and the annual report on our website, and they'll be shared. Please also sign up to our newsletter, follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and keep up to date with the work of the partnership. And if there really are no questions, which is amazing, you've done a fantastic job.
Can we just have a check, Chris? Because I think we need to just check if we had any submitted outside of here. So can you?
Okay. Yeah,
bear
sure.
with us for one sec. We'll just play
Yeah.
some fake cliff
Don't,
music.
don't,
Hang
don't
on.
want to encourage them. If there aren't any, that's fine by me.
I should probably say at that point, Chris, that if people do have questions subsequent
Yes.
to today, then of course, as usual, they can get in touch with us directly, and we'll answer all of them always.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. But if Zoe can't find any, then I don't think we should.
We've not had any in the LEP inbox, so
Okay, brilliant.
that's where they would
Okay.
have come to.
Okay, so everyone, all satisfied customers. That's great. Okay, thanks so much, everybody, and have a good weekend.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye now.